So, welcome to another episode of Six Strings and Other Stories. Today's guest is someone who I call probably India's top blues guitar player, along with my friend Rudy Wallang, who's already been on the show. When people say that oh, you're a great blues guitar player, and they're referring to me, I say, well, no, I'm really not. You need to listen to these guys, and they actually play the blues because they've been playing it consistently and almost exclusively for a very long time. So welcome to the show, Arinjoy. It's lovely to have you here.
Hi, Ward. Lovely to be here.
Cool. So we'll get right into it. Usually, the first question I ask most of our guests is, at the time you started playing guitar, what was your favorite band or artist?
So when I started playing guitar, I had just seen a few videos here and there on maybe MTV or Channel V or something like that. The big hit at that point of time was Smooth,
Okay.
Santana. So when I saw him playing, my mother said he's the leading guitar player in the world. I said, okay, cool. I really like him. And then, so I was still into my boy band phase. I was into a bit of Hindi music and everything. Young kid. Then I guess I saw the two Holy Grail songs, Hotel California and Stairway to Heaven, somewhere on Channel V. So my mother said, "You like this?" I said, "Yes, of course." So then she bought me a cassette of Hell Freezes Over and Led Zeppelin 4.
Cool.
I still remember pushing play. Ding, 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 ding. Hey, Mouse! And Jimmy Page's sound came. I was like, what just happened? And I sort of pushed all my Backstreet Boys and Enrique CDs outside. And I was almost 12 years old, and my dad got a Gibtone acoustic guitar for me. So, and this gentleman used to come and teach me tunes and all that.
Did you tell him I want to learn Led Zeppelin or something like that?
That happened a bit later. Then I think I joined Amit class. So
Okay.
all that happened.
So you're my second guest to have taken the illustrious Amit Datta's classes. So what age were you at when you joined learning from him?
I was about 15.
Okay.
He actually introduced me to the blues musicians, and once I got going with the pentatonic, almost didn't look at anything else.
Yeah, it does a lot,
Cool. I mean, why are these guys shedding? I can just. So all that happened, and he told me, listen to T-Bone Walker, listen to Hendrix and SRV, and he's actually, one of the most important lessons that he gave me was, whoever you like, see what they were listening.
Yeah.
So at the time I was listening to Pink Floyd a lot and everything. So he said, if you like David Gilmour, see who he was listening to, or if you like Hendrix, see who he was listening to. So he always asked us to trace back.
Right.
And of course, then you go to B.B. King and John Lee Hooker and T-Bone Walker.
When you listen to Led Zeppelin 4, going back to what you told us about, did you hear the blues in that, or did you just think it was just...
I didn't know it was quote-unquote blues, but I could feel an attraction towards that sound, which I attributed to the pentatonic thing later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could absolutely connect with, Black Dog and Misty Mountain Hop was just through my mind.
Harmonized guitar solos.
And had to rewind Stairway, rewind again, listen to it again, rewind again.
So when was your first gig then? How soon did that come along?
I think I was still in school. So I had a band called Jack Rabbit back then. We were doing... Later on, we went on to record an album with Saregama, a Bengali album. So at that point of time, I was in class 11. There was a cafe gig, and I played, I think, 2 or 3 songs with them. So that was my first experience of playing in front of an audience which was not in school.
How long did you practice for that gig?
So we used to jam a lot at our drummer's house. So yeah, so I don't remember how long, but yeah, we played quite a lot. These were seniors from school, so we've been jamming since the school days. So they had passed out, and they were in college.
Right. And what was the audience reaction like at your first gig? Did they like what was going
So
on?
audience, I remember the guitar was Bodhi's.
Okay, Bodhisattva, yeah.
So yeah, so because I was playing, he had a Squire. In fact, it's very much like that black strat that you used to. So it looked exactly like that. So I played on that. He was part of the audience actually, and yeah, the audience loved it, and it was actually an installation thing. Like there was a play going on, and we had the music bits interspersed between the dialogues and everything. So it was fun. Yeah.
At what point did you actually discover like, okay, this is the blues and this is something I really like? When you, like you said, you started tracing back on Amit Da's advice, then you probably figured out a lot of the stuff that we were listening to as rock and roll kind of traced back
Yeah.
to the old blues.
When I was in high school, I also had my metal phase.
Okay.
I couldn't play because I was too lazy to practice. Um, so, but I was very intrigued by Iron Maiden, and I had my Dream Theater phase as well, believe it or not. And of course, I had my G3 DVDs. So, after all that, I was not really seriously studying the blues at that point of time because there were too many other things going on.
Hmm.
Um, I think in 2015, when I said, no, I think this is what I can do best, maybe, and I want to go deeper into it.
Hmm.
Then I started, properly going deeper into the roots and trying to understand different kinds of styles and the nuances, the different kinds of vibes. And I was getting a clearer picture about what I wanted from the band, this shuffle and not that shuffle. And
Right. Was it
so,
easy to find people that were like-minded as well and wanted to play the blues authentically as well?
it's not easy, but I was lucky. So Akash and Shaunak, they've been a godsend, and they were, although they came from different backgrounds. Like Akash was more into prog back then, prog and
Okay.
metal back then, and Shaunak was into funk and R&B and that kind of thing. So, but they wanted to know more about the blues, so and that was enough for me.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just great if somebody wants to share your vision, and they're still with me, and I still kind of explore stuff with them. And nowadays, it's very hard to have a band, and it's not just because of the pandemic. People like to make music in a very isolated way nowadays. Like they can just sit with a laptop and just do it.
Yeah.
But you're part of that generation, and even I am actually who let's jam and let's play the 12 bar for hours. So yeah. So I was lucky to get that. So I feel
At what point did you discover the blues as a vehicle for improvisation and originality? It's just something that you can
back
shine your own, little vision of what
yeah
it should be like. Because,
back in
like,
school actually.
our whole thing was like copying other guitar players is how we
Yeah,
learn. But at
yeah.
some point, you kind of discover your own voice, and then you're able to actually nurture that and run with it. So, at what stage did that come? Because you're one of the most individual players I've ever heard.
Oh, thank you so much. I think that was back in school. It's a very funny thing actually. I was too lazy to learn the whole solo. So, so it's like two rounds of comfortably numb, and then I'm feeling bored. No, I don't want to learn anymore. I love the solo, but I don't want to learn anymore. So, and Amit had introduced me to the pentatonic. I just used to jam without thinking. I remember playing at school fests. First two rounds would be note for note, and then just improvise. And a student was asking me, "How were you so unfazed back then?" Because I didn't know I had, I had to have a chip on my shoulder. When, oh, can he play the Stairway to Heaven solo? Can he play the November Rain solo? I didn't know all that. I said, let's let's have fun.
Hmm.
So so I started doing that, and I started uh, knowing my way around changes a bit, and sort of a relation with the year sort of developed. I knew I wanted this and not that. Those kind of things started happening.
Did you watch
So
Rudy at some point? Did you see him
much
live?
later,
Oh, okay.
I actually got into the national scene. I got exposed to the national scene much later in my life
Oh, okay.
because I didn't know what to listen to, and actually. one of my friends turned me on to Nights in Shining Karma. I
Okay.
remember back in 2007 or 8.
Yeah.
Then I started like exploring. Okay, this is this guy, this is that guy.
The first time I came across you was when you all took part in the Mahindra Blues. There was a band hunt, and you all won,
Yeah,
I think, a
yeah,
slot at Mahindra Blues
yeah,
Festival. Do you remember the competition? I think Ehsan and Loy were judging, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, yeah. It was in at the True School of Music.
Okay.
So
So you'll
so that
travel to
was
Bombay for that.
yeah. It was one day we traveled to Bombay. There were two other bands. One was called the Mojo Hand, and the other was I think Submarine in Space or something. And the Mojo Hand had a very good guitar player. Had a very authentic feel for the blues. Yeah, it was fun. The competition was a lot of fun. We just let ourselves go.
What is the percentage of
And
original and covers that you all did at that at the competition?
we played three songs. One of them was an original.
Okay.
Two of them were covers.
Awesome.
And I didn't have too many originals for the band hunt set list. I remember the gig was on Saturday. I wrote a song on Monday because I wanted to sort of you know do my duty as an independent artist. Originals. I said no, this is shameful. Too many covers.
Yeah. And then you all
And but it was
ended up
yeah,
winning, and then you all had to play the big festival at
Garden Stage, yeah.
Mehboob Studio.
And
Yeah.
we got a huge response, and I've never seen a festival like that. So before that,
Yeah.
I had been to Weekender and all that, but this was something. There was something special about it. I
There's a
can't.
different kind of audience from a normal,
Yeah,
like an indie
and
festival.
they all want to hear that.
Yeah.
I've never seen something like that. I can't name another festival in the country where everybody just wants to hear the blues. I mean, I'm on stage when I got to play on the main stage. It's like one bend and there are whistles. See, I've never had this ever. So it's
Yeah.
the thrill of playing at Mahindra is just too much. It's
That's the one festival that kind of reminds me a little bit of the old Bombay audience, when I was growing up. Because I guess it's like those same people have kind of grown up a little
same
bit
people, yeah,
older. And like
yeah, yeah,
us, they've also traced back and, found out this is like where all that music originated from. It's almost
yeah.
like, you look at other blues festivals around the world, where
Mm.
they like won't necessarily have blues artists, they'll have, jazz and soul and funk and R&B, all that kind of stuff going on. But it's like it's quite cool to actually just see like straight up blues artists
Absolutely.
at this one festival. It's like the only time in the year you get to see that.
Yeah, and if there's somebody playing something else, there'll be people like that's not blues.
Yeah. Yeah. A bit hardcore, right?
Hardcore. They
I
just
was
want that.
I was kind of surprised that we like when we played it. I was like really scared. I
Yeah.
was like, well, we're not really a blues band, but well, we'll hope that they like what we do.
Yeah,
So
but it's great bluesy music. So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's good.
I mean, it's
So
definitely got its roots there. It's
absolutely.
it's not too far from that.
And once you play something like an Anuvaska or something, people will just shut up and listen. So so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
At what point did you discover that the tone is a very important part of what you're doing?
Much, 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 much later. There was a time where I didn't give a damn
At that
because I
point,
just wanted.
did I mean, I'm guessing you wouldn't necessarily have sounded bad. You just wouldn't be paying too much attention to it. But I'm kind of
Yeah,
willing to
I
bet.
didn't know how good it can be.
Yeah, yeah.
So and I was like, yeah, I've got my AX 1500G processor and there's an amp there. So and I've got my tone in my fingers. So but then 2014, I bought a Vox Night Train 50 head and an Ibanez Tube Screamer cabinet.
Hmm.
My first tube amp. Then it was like somebody. So felt like I was on 360p on YouTube and somebody just pressed 1080p. it's, it's like somebody had just removed a veil from up top of the tone or something. Like, oh, here's the sound. So So it's like everything's more responsive and everything's sharper and clearer and like shit. What was I doing all these years?
Yeah.
So
You start noticing like small differences in your pick attack and all will,
yeah,
it's all the like you can go from clean to driven just by how hard
yeah, absolutely.
you're
Just
picking.
with dynamics, yeah, it's difficult to control at first because if your muting isn't right,
Yeah.
you end up creating a lot of
Exactly.
unnecessary
It's
noise.
it's way
Yeah,
open, so any
it's
mistakes you
too.
make
Yeah,
will come out in 3D.
yeah.
So kind of
If you're a bad guitar
yeah.
player, people will know it.
Yeah, because the funny thing is for me, I went from playing like say a Boss pedal into a Fender tube amp into
Hmm,
like saying, nah, I need to get like with what's hip at the time, which was like processors and everything. And when I went through my
hmm,
share of that, I think within
hmm.
6 months I realized like this isn't happening. I went back to the the tube amp, and
Yeah,
like
because
yeah,
yeah,
it becomes
I've,
part of what you're doing. The sound.
absolutely.
Yeah, you kind of feel almost
So
handicapped without it.
yeah, right now it's difficult without those kind of, at least a tube amp. It's difficult. I mean, you need that response from your from the amp. And after that, of course, our friend Mr. Hassan Nurani gifted me two pedals.
Oh, nice.
I never was a pedal guy. I was never a pedal. But those two pedals he gifted me. After that, I was like, I've got to complete the chain. And and then it was this huge rabbit hole. And I'm on YouTube watching Andertons. And I'm calling up our friend Rohan Ganguly. I'm calling him up. Hey, have you checked this out? He said, "What are you saying? You've changed, man." So yeah, after that I started, looking
So
at
when
pedals
you
I
go for a
wanted. And
gig now, what do you ask for in terms of a deck rider? What's your main preference?
I would like either a twin reverb or a hot rod double, something like that. Yeah, I just need my monitors and a Fender amp. That's it.
And what do you
I
bring to the
I
gig
think
apart from your guitar? Do you bring a pedal board or something?
uh yeah, I do bring my pedal board, which has, I think, the visual sound Route 808.
Hmm.
There's this HAO effects rumble mod, which both of these Ehsan had gifted me, and that's like kind of a dumble type sound. And I have the Velvet Fuzz, the Moore Trelicopter, the Corona Chorus, the DD7, and the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Yes, it's a
That's
pretty
pretty much.
complete pedal board, and I guess you can just
Yeah,
use
yeah,
the amp as a platform for the
yeah.
let the pedals do some
So,
of the work.
and if it's like a more traditional gig,
Hmm.
just straight into the amp.
Ah, okay. Remember that one gig we played in Calcutta and like Rudy's pedal board was just that one tube scream? I thought that was classic.
Yeah,
So, see-
yeah. Well, for a blues gig, sometimes like I get inspired by people like Eric Gales or Josh Smith or these kind of guys. Even Kirk Fletcher has certain effects that he gets. So just for variety, it's nice to have those sounds. The modern audience has heard a lot of other things as well, and you've got to play on their turf a bit. So,
I guess
so
the more tools you have in your, the more colors you have in your palette. You
yeah,
don't always have to be painting with that color, but every now and then you find a use for it. That is,
yeah,
just what the song needs, and it's cool to have that.
yeah, absolutely.
It's been awesome watching you like on social media because you post a lot of your playing, which is like straight
Mm,
from the heart, and you don't really care about the lighting and the framing and everything. It's just the music that comes out in your Instagram
yeah,
videos. And
yeah,
it's been really awesome seeing like, really, world famous guitar players like Kirk Fletcher and Matt Schofield and all these guys like, digging your playing and giving you a thumbs up and
yeah,
stuff like that. So I'm really
yeah.
happy to
Mm.
see that. So I'm guessing Kirk Fletcher is probably like one of your biggest
Yep.
influences in a
He
way.
is, I think, he's my favorite blues guitar player in the world today. He has a soul connect in his playing that I've, not heard in a long time from like that generation of players. I mean, I love everybody else as well, but there's something special about his playing. I mean, one note, it's him,
Yeah.
and every bend, the swing, and his knowledge of the tradition.
Yeah. He's
It's
always
just
sharing cool songs, like which you never would have,
yeah,
come across normally, but it's good to have a
yeah,
source that says, well, listen to this. This is
yeah.
cool. How did you
He's
how did
just
you how were you introduced to Kirk? How did you come across him?
Oh, I just so I have a tune on the Arinjoy Trio set list called Blues for Kirk.
Okay.
So it's an instrumental dedicated to him. We were practicing for a gig, and I just took a small video and uploaded and tagged him, and he responded, and
Oh,
we
nice.
started talking on. He's a really cool guy. I mean, he
Yeah,
he's very helpful, and I keep talking to him now and then, and he's really chill.
the first time I
So
came across him was like I think he used to sit in with Michael Landau's band
yeah,
back in the day,
good
and
friend of his. Yeah,
yeah, so there was this one video of the baked potato, and I remember like
yeah,
listening to this, I was like, Jesus, who is this guy, man? And he's then like go and dig a bit deeper and everything, and then you find out, this
yeah,
guy's
yeah.
he's another one of those younger guys that's still keeping the traditional art form
And
alive. And it's just awesome that you get props from these guys, and it's not just now in India. Like people around the world are listening to you.
mm,
I hope you just keep going further and further with your music.
thank you so much.
Now, just a couple of other questions. With regards to the blues, I mean, you can see its lineage and the way it has influenced of fairly different R&B and rock and jazz and a whole bunch of art forms can trace their lineage
Mm,
to the
mm,
blues. Um,
mm,
and you've got some artists that keep the traditional form alive, which you need,
mm,
and
mm,
some artists who take that and always pushing it to see how far it can
mm,
go.
mm, mm, mm.
So which of the two do you see yourself more towards? Do you see yourself more aligned to traditional blues, or do you see yourself taking it?
So I'm not really one or the other. I would have both kinds on my album.
Okay.
Right now, I'm in a very traditional blues headspace, watching Kirk play the old school stuff, and a friend of mine from Chicago, who's also a veteran guitar player, played with a lot of greats, Johnny Bergen. He plays like the '50s Chicago guys.
So
So
nice.
I've never explored that properly.
Mm.
So I'm trying to like get certain sounds up. Sometimes not bending too much, just staying with the quarter tone bend and just concentrating on phrasing and swing. And I love the twanginess of the guitars back then. So
Right.
Jimmy Vaughan is really a
Yeah.
big favorite of mine right now. Yeah, so he has that thing, that scruffy, scratchy kind of tone. I love it. So I'm trying to learn how to play backup with harmonica better right now.
Oh, cool.
Trying to understand the traditional way of backing up a harmonica. I mean, of course, I can play my rhythm, but there are certain fills, there typical fills and typical chord comping that happens, and I'm trying to kind of get more into that. I also play with Omid, so that side of my brain also
Yeah,
exists.
I've seen a video of Amit, one of
Yeah.
his songs, and you're there in that. And that was like the first time I realized, oh, this guy does that as well. He's not just like,
Yeah,
a blues
because
guitar
I've
player.
played classical guitar for 6 years,
Okay.
and I've also dabbled in jazz guitar a bit. I have certain, like, I am a huge fan of John McLaughlin. I love Holsworth. I love John Scofield and Pat Metheny and whoever, Mike Stern. I love all those guys. And there is a side of me which kind of, I haven't studied their music well enough, but those instincts are sort of there because as a result of listening. So when I'm playing the blues, of course, I can't incorporate too much of that because it'll, take the sound too further away from.
Yeah.
But I have a song called "Late Night Secrets" in my album.
Okay.
Uh, it's dedicated to Larry Carlton.
Oh,
So
nice.
it was more changes in the song. Like there were a lot of changes in the song, and Amida played rhythm guitar on it
Oh, cool.
because, of course, who else? He sounds like an LA session guitar player anyway. So, so I have that side of my brain, open to other things. Eric Gales, Gary Clark Jr., these guys really, intrigue me a lot. They incorporate their hip hop influences, and they're all into Eric Johnson, and the modal stuff happens. I dig that a lot, and I would have certain tunes which sort of go in that direction because if you have that, and you might as well bring it out.
Yeah.
And you know,
Yeah. I mean,
so I can't really,
there's no
yeah,
problem in tapping into that. You don't have to deny
yeah,
it
yeah.
and just say like, no, that's not
As long as
allowed.
I'm not tapping into that.
Yeah, and you see Billy Gibbons do it. So it's all good.
Yeah, of course.
Um, Here's another question. To a young kid, say 14, 15, that is looking to get into the blues.
Hmm, hmm,
Let's say they're in India, since that's where most
hmm,
of our audience is. Uh,
hmm.
what's a bit of advice you would pass on? What are the things to keep in mind?
Firstly, I think read up a bit, watch movies, watch documentaries if you can, like have a visual connect as well. Because one of the things I remember, which sort of drew me closer to what to play and what not to play, was movies. When you hear like a blues guitar being played in a movie, you know what the visual is sort of like. Suppose Terminator to Judgment Day. You had George Thorogood,
Yeah.
buy at the
Yeah.
bone, and he's wearing that, and he's driving. So I remember all that. Okay, so that's the kind of vibe I should be channeling when I'm listening to ZZ Top. Or a lot of kids nowadays, they don't watch those things which connect you with the music. I remember all those scenes from those movies. They were like how what the city looks like and what so it helps me sort of channel a vibe. Those visuals in movies, the jackets and the mullets and everything. So I think watch the old cartoons also if you can, and then of course movies and documentaries, and know what it's all about. And one of the things that guitar players I think have to do in general, among the youngsters, get into the lyrics of the song. That is something that I have sort of tried to instill in my students. Like, just see what the song is about, and you know what to do. It's not just what if I play this lick over the 5 chord. That's cool, but uh, but
It's more of the
not
bigger
just any
picture.
lick.
Yeah, it's more like a
Yeah,
bigger
yeah.
picture
So
thing.
if he's talking about your whatever, my baby left me for another man or something, like, you can't be like, does mixolydian flatline work? I'm sure it does, but I'm sure it does, but there has to be something deeper at work here. So
It reminds me of this
so
hilarious joke. This guy keeps on
yeah.
saying,
Hmm.
I think my wife is. He's written this letter to the magazine, like how they write their
Yeah.
problems in and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think my
Yeah.
wife is cheating on me because like my
Yeah.
friend he plays at the bar down the road,
Hmm.
and he keeps telling me that she comes there with some other dude. So I told my friend, okay, so now the next time you play there, let me hide behind your amp
Hmm.
and I'll, spy and see if she comes there. So his friend says, yeah, but in one condition, you have to lend me your vintage Marshall. So he said, okay, fine, you can borrow it. So he says, as I crouched behind the vintage Marshall, I could see my wife enter with this guy. But then I looked behind the amp and I saw out of the 4 tubes, only 3 are glowing. Do you think I should take it for repair?
That is hilarious. I'll remember that one. Shit.
Oh
Yeah, yeah.
man,
Guitar players.
guitar players totally guilty as charged.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the last question, you get to turn the tables on me and ask me a question.
Yeah. I've thought about this. So, do you plan to someday make a vocal album with all your favorites singers, or write the tunes yourself and the lyrics yourself, and get your favorite singers to sing?
Yeah, it's
Do you
definitely
would
a
you
possibility. The funny thing is, I used
Hmm.
to sing quite well and with quite a lot of enthusiasm when I was a kid. And then,
Hmm.
like in teenage years, your voice cracks. And then after that, I never got back into it for some reason. I mean, previous albums I've written lyrics. There's always
Yeah.
been a couple of songs like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, it would be cool to just send each song to like I think this person. And right now I know a few singers who may
Yeah.
you know happily agree to be a part of it. So let's see. There's always a possibility. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
I always ask people whether they want to do the other thing. so
Yeah, I
so
mean,
that's why I
there's
was
always. I mean, I used to be in a band like a normal rock band
zero.
with songs and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything. So then,
That's
like
right.
the other thing became
Yeah.
the instrumental thing. Then
Yeah.
it just became
There
what I
were
do.
enough school bands back in the day covering PSP 12.
Oh,
So
anyway, thanks for
yeah,
being a part of this, man. It's lovely to have you on, and I
absolutely,
wish you all the
absolutely,
best,
my
and
pleasure.
may you go from strength to strength.
Thank you so much.
Cool,
All the
man.
best to you, Warren.